Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Every single day, we're all leaving this trail of digital breadcrumbs behind us. But what story do those crumbs actually tell? Well, today, we're going to try and map out our digital selves. We're going to find a really simple way to make sense of this huge, kind of complicated world we all navigate online. All right, let's kick things off with a real classic. You might recognize this iconic cartoon from The New Yorker, all the way back in 1993. The caption, "On the internet, nobody knows you're a dog." And honestly, that just perfectly captured the whole vibe of the early internet, right? It was this place for anonymity, for freedom. You could pretty much be whoever you wanted to be. But let's be real, the internet of 1993 feels like a completely different planet compared to what we have today. That whole promise of anonymity, it's pretty much been replaced by the reality of data. I mean, now every single click, every search, every like, it all generates these huge amounts of personal information that's being collected and analyzed. So that anonymous playground, yeah, it's basically become a data goldmine. So that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? With this massive, massive shift from privacy to data, how in the world are we supposed to make sense of it all? How do we even begin to map this new digital territory we're all living in? Well, luckily for us, there is a framework for that. We're about to introduce a really simple but incredibly powerful map that'll help us understand our digital society. And here it is. Now, don't worry about trying to read everything on this page, okay? Just focus on that diagram right in the middle. This is the digital society diagram, and it's built around what we're going to call the three C's: concepts, content, and contexts. Seriously, think of this thing as your personal toolkit for breaking down any digital interaction you can think of just by linking these three areas together. Now, what's so cool about this is just how powerful this simple model actually is. See, the framework gives us a bunch of examples for each of the three C's, things like identity or data or social impacts. But when you start combining them, the possibilities for analysis just explode. You can get way over 300 unique ways to look at a single digital event. It just goes to show you the incredible depth that's hiding inside this pretty straightforward-looking diagram. Okay, so let's break this down, starting with the first C, concepts. These are the big, kind of abstract ideas that really shape our digital world. We're talking about things like identity, who you are online, or power, which is all about who's controlling the information. And then there's ethics, which asks, what's the right way to even use all this tech? These are the big foundational themes. Next up, we've got content. This is the actual, the stuff of the digital world. It's the systems and technologies we're using every single day. So we're talking about the data that's being collected, the algorithms that are deciding what you see in your feed, and of course, the media and AI systems we interact with. And that brings us to the third C, contexts. This is really where the digital world smacks right into the real world. It's all about the tangible impact, how technology affects us culturally, or the huge economic and political ripple effects of things like AI. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Okay, so that's the theory, but let's bring this down to earth and make it personal. We're going to take this three C's framework and apply it to something every single one of us has: our digital footprint. So the idea here is pretty simple. Every single time you go online, you leave these little traces behind. And just like footprints in the sand, all of those little actions start to form a trail. So your digital footprint is basically the sum of all your online activities. The websites you go to, the information you give to services, the emails you send, all of it. It's a permanent record that, unlike those footprints in the sand, doesn't really wash away. And it's really, really important to know that there are two sides to this whole story. First, you've got your active footprint. This is the stuff you choose to share, right? Like when you post a photo or upload a video. But then there's your passive footprint. And this is the data that's collected in the background, a lot of times without you even realizing it. Things like your browser history or what your internet provider logs. So let's plug this whole idea back into our three C's framework. When we talk about your digital footprint, the concept at play is your identity. The content is the networks and the internet itself that are capturing all this data. And the context, well, that's how this all affects you socially and how it can even impact your health and well-being. See, it all starts to connect. Okay, so why should you care about any of this? Why does it matter? Well, because understanding these systems is really the first step toward becoming a more conscious, more empowered digital citizen. Because at the end of the day, awareness is power. When you actually understand how your data is being created and used, you can start making much more informed choices. You can take steps to protect your privacy, and you can be more intentional about shaping the online identity you present to the world.
So, I'm going to leave you with this to think about. If somebody could see your entire digital footprint, everything, both the active and the passive stuff, what story would it tell about you? And more importantly, is that the story you actually want it to tell?
And that brings us right back to where we started. Maybe on the internet, they still don't know you're a dog, but you can be absolutely sure that thanks to your digital footprint, they almost certainly know your favorite brand of kibble. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.